Hi everybody. I chose to do my speech on Obama's address he gave at the American University in Washington on July 1st, 2010 regarding immigration. The full video and transcript is provided by Matt Fredericks and is on the American University School of International Services website. Obama's address was speaking about immigration and blaming the Republicans for not getting on board with reform and moving forward. Obama also discussed what America is doing to control immigration, and in order to move forward, bipartisan support is needed. Going into the theory, I will be discussing the common topics that Edward Corbett used in his book titled Classical Rhetoric for the Modern Student. The 5 common topics are definition, comparison, relationship, circumstance, and testimony, noting each of these have subtopics. However, I will only be using genus and division, which are subtopics of definition. And lastly, I will be using contradiction and cause and effect, which are subtopics of relationship. Each of these will be discussed individually below. Or I will discuss each of them individually. So on July 1st, Barack Obama stood up in front of 250 people in the SIS atrium at the American University in Washington and gave an address regarding immigration. The 250 people were comprised of the New York Mayor, Michael Bloomberg, Al Sharpton, along with other politicians, government officials, American University administrators, professors, staff, and students. Obama gave this address because immigration is a very salient issue in the White House right now, but also in America. It was smart on Obama's behalf to give the speech at the time and place he did, because it was at the groundbreaking ceremony for the SIS building at the American University. So this was a monumental time, and what better of an opportunity for Obama to give an address on immigration, a time when people are gathered and listening. Also, it should be noted that President Dwight Eisenhower also gave a monumental speech at American University in 1957, along with Presidents Wilson, Roosevelt, Kennedy, Carter, Clinton, Bush Sr., addressing topics such as peace, justice, poverty, and hunger, as well as economy and trade. So Obama spoke to those 250 people who were, as I already mentioned, but also gave the address to America because it was nationally televised. In this speech, he specifically thanked the members of Congress, elected officials, faith and law enforcement, labor, business leaders, and immigration advocates for being there, and thanked them for their presence. And also must be discussed is Obama, in this case, is the accuser in the text because he is charging the Republicans for not getting on the bandwagon of addressing immigration reform. This is important to note when discussing the context of a speech. Obama also states, "I'm ready to move forward. The majority of Democrats are ready to move forward, and I believe the majority of Americans are ready to move forward, but the fact is, without bipartisan support, we cannot solve this problem. Our immigration system cannot pass without Republican votes." This quote, I think, really explicitly shows how Obama was accusing Republicans and is charging them with not voting to support immigration reform. Moving on to the application of how I applied the 5 common topics to Obama's address is first starting with definition, which is defined as being is a way of unfolding what is wrapped up in a subject that is being examined. However, I am not really concerned with definition. I am concerned with the subtopics genius and division within definition. So the genius, which is defined as the topic at hand that clarifies the point of issue. So, in order to understand Obama's address, the line of argument that needs to be understood is immigration reform and how we as Americans see immigration. This is best shown by Obama's statement. In recent days, the issue of immigration has become once more a source of fresh contention in our country with the passage of a controversial law in Arizona and the heated reactions we've seen in America. Some have rallied and some have boycotted. I think this statement really shows the definition of the problem Obama is addressing. And as far as the genius, Obama said, "We've always defined ourselves as a nation of immigrants, a nation that welcomes those willing to embrace America's prospects and the generations who braved hardships and risked their lives to come across shores in search of a better life." The problem here is immigration, which has been defined, but Obama goes into depth about how America defines immigrants and sets up the foundation of his argument by explaining how we personally as Americans see immigrants. So this is how he demonstrates the use of the genius and the overall common topic of definition. Another subtopic of definition is division, which, as we all read about in Sumner's Crime Against Kansas, division is pretty much separating two parts, and So in Obama's address, he makes the division of the president versus the Republicans. Obama said himself, as I stated before, the Democrats and Americans are ready to move forward, but without bipartisan support, it is not possible. And also, he said a few short years ago, there was mutuality in the House, but if it does not render itself, the problem with immigration will not get solved. Obama says reforms that brings accountability to our immigration system cannot pass without Republican votes. So this really shows how Obama is blaming the Republicans, saying, "Hey, you need to get on board, and we need to come up with new immigration reform policies to make our government and our nation function better." The other common topic Obama demonstrated is relationship, which has two subtopics of contradiction and cause and effect. Remembering that contradiction is the idea that something cannot be at the same time in the same respect be and not be. So, for example, you cannot say that it is cold outside and then say it is not cold outside, because that's a contradiction. So, in Obama's address, the use of contradiction is quite clear. He says the founding of our nation was the idea that America was a place where refugees could come and find freedom, but then Thomas Jefferson made the notion in the Constitution of oppressed humanity, and Obama added that when the Constitution was barely dry, when Congress passed the Alien and Sedition Acts, which placed restrictions on those who were thought to have foreign allegiances. So the contradiction here is in the Constitution. It says for those who want a better life could come to America, but Congress then put the Alien and Sedition Acts to restrict who could come to the United States. It's a pretty quite clear contradiction. Lastly, Obama also uses cause and effect, and this is demonstrated when he says the immigration system is fundamentally broken, our borders have been porous for decades, and the problem is greatest along the southern border, but also because a large number of the people overstay their visas. That is the cause. But Obama goes on to say, as a result of this, the so-called broken system, because of this, there are around 11 million undocumented immigrants living in America as of 2010. Obama also said, we have more boots on the ground on the southwest border than any other time in our country. We doubled the personnel assigned to our border enforcement security task forces. We tripled the number of intelligence analysts along the border. So as a result, more illegal guns, cash and drugs have been seized, as well as statistics that have been collected by the Customs Border Protection show a significant decrease in the number of people trying to illegally cross the border. So in this case, the system of immigration is fundamentally broken. Is the effect, the cause in the case is the system of immigration is fundamentally broken, and the effect is there are around 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States, and this is forcing the government to tighten up security at the southern border. So when making implications about a speech, you have to discuss what people might not know before you read the speech, as well as what can our analysis say about the theory we're looking at. So what people might not know before reading the speech is I honestly didn't know Obama gave an address like this, because I normally know most of the addresses he gives because it interrupts my TV shows. We all hate that. but I actually knew little about what was going on in Washington regarding immigration. So reading this address, it was educational as well as informational for me about what was going on. But what you might not know before reading the article is Obama was assigning blame to Republicans for not doing their job, essentially. And if they would step up and face immigration head on, maybe the government would have to not work as hard to secure the borders in the South. Just the food for thought. Another aspect you guys might not know before reading the article is Obama was very clever in how and where he gave the speech. What better of a place to give a speech on a pressing issue than where previous presidents have stood and gave addresses on other pressing issues. This was an intelligent political move on Obama's part, I think, because American University in Washington is one of the best schools, so when Obama was invited to the groundbreaking ceremony of the new SAS building, what an opportune moment to give an address regarding immigration, because it's a very salient issue in America right now. Also, because most of his congressmen and Americans were listening to him. So this was very smart and strategic by Obama. So after analyzing the 5 common topics and Obama's speech, I have come to the conclusion that Obama's address regarding immigration is an invective rhetoric text because it upholds a couple of the common topics. As I discussed, it upholds definition and relationship. For a speech to have all of the common topics, it would be a very lengthy speech, and it would be very hard for students to write a reasonably short analysis on it. Therefore, since Obama's address demonstrates 2 of the 5 common topics in invective rhetoric, I came to the conclusion that Obama's address is an invective speech. Have a great day. Thank you for watching.